Hello, it is Chief Strays Bolts here. I'm here joined again once more with JP Peterson. We did a video 2 years ago talking about the future of the Rays, and turns out 2 years later, it mostly is all the same thing.
What did I say
So
then, Brett? I don't remember. Probably the same things I'm saying now, right?
it was a lot of the same stuff. I feel like I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but mainly the same stuff. Just in case you didn't know, JP Peterson here is the host of the JP Peterson Show on Lightning Hockey Night Live. One of the most knowledgeable people to talk to when it comes to the Rays Stadium saga and all the, I guess, insider information.
Well, thank you for that. Yes.
Of course. So let's just, the way I see it, or the way I understand it, is that there are currently three groups interested in purchasing the Rays. Is that correct?
Yeah, depending on who you read. I know of three. Some say there are
Okay.
four. But from my understanding and the people that I've talked to, and it's a developing situation. They're separate groups, and then Major League Baseball will sometimes come in and consolidate those groups into a super group, and just feeling how people want to come together and coalesce and see how it goes. So that may be a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. These particular, these are $1 billion transactions. They're very complicated. They can become very political. And right now, I think there's a lot of different positioning that's going on. And I think Major League Baseball is very much interested in pressuring Stu Sternberg to sell the team. He doesn't have a whole lot of options. And there are people that want to buy the team. Major League Baseball is aware of them. They've talked to them. Ron DeSantis is aware of them, the governor. So Ken Hagan is aware of them. All of them have been talking and planning and trying to get out, the money right, location right, everything right. But the good news is these people have deep pockets. They want to buy the team. They want to build a stadium in Tampa. And I think eventually that's what's always made sense. And eventually that will happen. Timing, who knows? It kind of depends on Stu Sternberg at this point.
It's kind of crazy how it's so clear as day for people like you and I to see. It has to be in Tampa. There's no
Right.
way that you can continue pursuing the St. Pete deal. And one of the three groups that I was referring to was the Di Bartolo group. This is like information I got from you, and then on a Tampa Bay Times article as well. It was basically the same information, but it seemed like the Di Bartolo group wanted to pursue the St. Pete deal, and that just
Right.
to me, if you're a guy with that kind of money and you're trying to run a business here and put in an investment, that just seems like a waste of time.
Well, it is if you look at it from a baseball standpoint, I think. But the Bartolo, that company has been doing huge development projects all over the world for a long, long time. They know what they're doing, and they look at it as a real estate deal more than a baseball deal. And in that way, it can make sense. The real estate will be incredibly profitable. The baseball side of it, probably not so much, but to some people that would work out. That's why I think in the long run, it didn't work. Because it's great to grab the money up front. If you're Stu Sternberg, that's what he was after. Great to grab, the real estate investment that could be worth $700 to $1 billion in profit. That would have been worth that for Stu. But for whatever reason, and I have, some thoughts on why it didn't get done. It didn't get done. And honestly, if you're a Rays fan, we dodged the bullet. I mean, I was out at the game last night. It was just, unbelievable. It's beautiful sunset behind, home plate. We were out, we got the standing room only tickets. We're standing out there, just beautiful night. It's not even really, it's a sellout, but it doesn't feel crowded. There's huge areas out there to stand. There's the bar area. There was nobody in line. And it was fantastic out in right field watching the Rays circle the bases 16 times, kicking the crap out of the Red Sox. And it was just beautiful weather. It was just as good as it gets, and I'm like, how could we ever go back to Tropicana Field? And all the people that were talking, the Rays fans were all talking, and we're like, yeah, who the hell wants to go back there? This is beautiful. Right. And of course it's when the weather's nice, and I understand it's going to get hot and all that, but it's just a perfect setting for baseball. And I highly recommend anybody just get out there. And we got those tickets for $20 the other day. They send out the text. If you're on the list, get on the list, by the way. All you do is sign up. Doesn't cost anything. Send you a text. You go and you buy them for $20, and it's awesome. It's the best deal in sports, and it's the team's playing great. It's a great setting, outdoor baseball. I mean, you are right on top of the game. I mean, it's so awesome, the stadium. And this is what, when you have a great stadium, when you have a good entertaining team, and it's centrally located, it works. People show up. It's not it's not rocket science here. And it's amazing that people still talk about, oh, we should have it in St. Pete. St. Pete is a beautiful, beautiful city. I was out at the beach this weekend for the Mike Allstott event. It's awesome, even though it's still not rebuilt to what it was, but it's getting there. St. Pete has beautiful beaches, incredible downtown restaurants, bars, outdoor areas, way better than downtown Tampa. Great arts, culture, all that in St. Pete. That's what St. Pete is great at. And if you look at this area as one, instead of being provincial about, we want the Rays and you can have the Lightning and you have the, it's like, it's not about that. It should be fair. It's not about fair. It's about demographics. Where are the people? You got 81 games, midweek games. People can't get to St. Pete Monday through Thursday. It's just not ever going to happen. The people in St. Pete don't support the team. And so it's not a competition. You just look at the area as a whole and you say, this is what St. Pete does great. It's our beaches, it's our beautiful waters, all that stuff. Great downtown, great events. And in Tampa, this is where the sports teams are. This is where the international airport is. As a region, it's beautiful, and it's awesome. And we should look at it from a regional standpoint. And where the baseball stadium should be is in the middle of the market, where the people are. Pretty simple. Pretty simple.
Yeah, I second everything that you just said. I went to a game last week, and it was just incredible. The Rays won. They had fireworks going off in the night sky, cool
beautiful
weather. It was totally just. And don't get me wrong, I've grown up going to the Trop. That's like a second home to me. But I don't know. After seeing it in Tampa, I'm with you. I don't know how we can go back to the Trop.
I can tell you what, players don't want to go back. The players do not want to go back.
Especially with all the clubhouse renovations.
Oh, my God. They're getting treated like kings, like the Yankees,
Yeah, literally.
If you've ever been to the Rays clubhouse, it's not bad, but it ain't the Yankees clubhouse.
No.
It ain't even and all the facilities they have there, the batting cages underneath, the meals, the meal area. Everything else compared to Tropicana Field for the players, it's like, 5-star luxury in Tampa and, the Motel 6 at Tropicana Field. So the players,
a good way of putting it,
they don't want to go back. The fans don't want to go back. And, and then the whole idea of pouring $100 million into the Trop to repair it, which is where I think it's going to be, the number, and then blowing it up 3 years later is the most ridiculous thing in the world. But whatever. I understand St. Pete has contractual obligations. I think Major League Baseball wants to get back in a major league park, right? But I don't know. I'd rather them just stay at Steinbrenner Field for 3 years while they build a state-of-the-art stadium in Tampa.
Oh, absolutely. I'm totally with you. But talking about the whole demographics thing, this was a study done in 2019. You might remember this one. I don't know how accurate it is today, but it was population within a 30-minute drive from the stadium. And the Rays were dead last at like 600,000 plus. And then second to last was double the Rays population within a 30-minute drive, which was the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I don't know how accurate that is today, but you talk about demographics.
It's even I found this out, which I thought was really interesting, from a person who works in direct mailing in St. Petersburg. So it's marketing to people from postal codes. They're still sending out those snail mail, big coupon books, right? Whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they did a study like how many people are actually in St. Petersburg during the summer. And this is what he told me. I don't know why he wouldn't lie, but they research this stuff. It's their business. And he said like 52% of the people don't even live in St. Pete during the summer. They leave, of the permanent residents. They leave and go north to North Carolina or back Canada or wherever. Because you got a lot of mobile homes, you got a lot of condos. So not only is it 600,000 people within a 30-minute drive, half of them leave during the summer during baseball season. So it's like crazy. So now you're looking at 400,000 people. It's crazy. You can't support Major League Baseball 81 games, Monday through Thursday games in that kind of population center. Major League Baseball has had a long-standing rule that you can't put a stadium unless you have 1.5 million people within a 30-minute district, which is distance, which is why they told the people of St. Petersburg way back in the 80s, don't build this stadium. we're not going to move a team there because it doesn't work. And then they got the team because Namoli threatened to sue. They had to give him the team. And even back then, Bud Selig said eventually the team will be in Tampa. So this whole argument about where it was, and that's why I say, if you're a Rays fan and you're, oh, damn, it didn't go through. No, we dodged the bullet. The mayor was crazy enough to give Stu Sternberg $1.3 billion in public funding for his stadium, which would have eventually cost the city $2.5 billion in the loss of revenue from real estate taxes and the real estate that he was going to give to Sternberg for $50 million. That's worth anywhere from $700 to $1 billion. So the city of St. Pete dodged the bullet because their mayor was making this horrible deal. And, thank God Stu didn't have the money to do the deal. So now you have these owners in waiting that Major League Baseball loves, wants to be part of Major League Baseball ownership. They have to get the Tampa Stadium deal done in order to expand to these other markets like Raleigh, Nashville, Portland, San Antonio that want baseball. And then when they do that, these other owners are going to get about $4.4 million in expansion fees. So these other owners are very invested in getting a deal done in Tampa. And they now know that Stu Sternberg can't get it done. Because if you can't get it done with that deal, you can't get it done. And the mayor of St. Pete doesn't want to work with him. Pinellas County doesn't want to work with him. Hillsborough County doesn't want to work with him because he's, Stu has lied and been disingenuous in all of these negotiations on both sides of the bay, has poisoned the water, and he can't get a deal done. So for the major league owners, they're like, okay, let's get somebody else in there that can get it done. And these people are here and waiting. 3 groups, like you said. I think there's one, there'll be one that they settle on that can get the job done. And so, yeah, everybody wants it to get done. It's in everybody's interest for it to get done expeditiously, except for one person, Stu Sternberg, who, again, is still holding up development on the Tampa side, holding up development on the Trop site, and holding up expansion for all of Major League Baseball. One dude.
Yeah, that's the way I see it too.
Crazy.
It's like you said, expansion fees, billions that can go in these owners' pockets, and it's all Stu. It's amazing that I'm surprised MLB is not working out some kind of. I don't really know how the legal stuff works, but how the Arizona Coyotes were kind of forced out by the and all that stuff. I'm surprised the MLB is not. And I know you and Tampa Bay Times have both reported that Stu's facing immense pressure from other owners around the league.
As has Ken Rosenthal.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, who's as plugged in as anybody. Jeff Passan, Evan Drellick from the Athletic, all as plugged in as everybody. And I've had conversations with these unnamed owners. And so we've all reported the same thing. So, to think that, Stu's sitting there going, oh, it's not for sale. That's a lie. I mean, it's ridiculous at this point. And the weird thing is he can sell the team now for $1 billion profit. Oh, well over $1 billion profit for what he paid for the team. And not to mention all the money he's already sucked out of the team over the 20 years that he's owned it. I mean, it's ridiculous how much money he's made. And it's like, how much is enough? Like, please move on. And I've said this. I still think there's, and time's running out. I still think there's a chance for Stu to leave a legacy, a somewhat positive legacy. If he were to sell in the next few months and to these folks, and the deal gets done on the Tampa side, the Rays stay here for generations to come. I think we could look back on the Sternberg era as he made us a winner. Like he came up with he hired people that did a tremendous job of Wall Streeting, so to speak, taking Moneyball to the next level and winning in the regular season. And you could say that was, Stu was great at that. And then he handed it off to owners that, took it to another level. It's kind of like with the Lightning, right? The Davidson group came in, righted the ship that, the ownership ship, put them on stable footing and won a Stanley Cup. And then handed it off eventually to Jeff Innick, who took it to another level. And, that could be Stu's legacy. I think if he drags this out for another year or so And, there's going to be dalliances with Raleigh, and there's going to be, going to hear, oh, the Rays are going to Nashville. You're going to hear, David Sampson's podcast. If you're not don't listen to it, it's nothing personal. Former president of the Marlins. He had a great segment he did the other day because he was kind of in this same position. And basically Major League Baseball told him, like, go out, take these meetings with these other cities. That's how you get a deal done in Miami. Start threatening to move the team. And he admitted, he goes, we weren't leaving. Major League Baseball was not going to let us leave the market, but they wanted us to go out and fake like we were to create leverage to get public money out of Miami. And I mean, that's dirty dealing, right? It's dirty dealing. And he admitted to it. But that's how the deal got done in Miami. Now, they screwed it up because they put it in the wrong location. They actually went through with a terrible boondoggle deal in Miami, and they put it in a wrong location because it's just like in St. Pete. Miami wanted to keep that team at all costs. They wanted to keep that team. So they ended up building a beautiful stadium in a terrible location that it still doesn't get any attendance because it's in a terrible location. And they're back to square one where they were. And that's what would have happened had they built it in St. Pete. So we dodged the bullet. And now we have an opportunity to get it right and do it right. So that's the positive part of it.
I just hope that everything works out in the end. What do you think, talking about Stu being pressured and all this stuff to sell the team, what do you think the likelihood is of the Rays actually being sold by the end of this season? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely a possibility. And, these are inner workings of which I do not know. I don't know how much pressure Major League Baseball can bring to bear. Baseball is a very secretive society. They don't open their books to anybody. They do everything possible to avoid litigation, like in the Sternberg case with his partners, to not have discovery and depositions because they don't want the world to know how baseball works and how much money they make and all these things.
Right.
They just don't, and they go to great lengths for that. So I don't, but I know this, Major League Baseball, the owners, they can be ruthless. And when you get on the wrong side of them, I'm sure they can bring certain things to bear from a legal standpoint, legal threats that Stu Sternberg doesn't want any part of. And I'm sure Stu can threaten things on Major League Baseball that they don't want any part of, right? Because he's part of the club. So it's a weird dynamic, but there's no question that the other owners have turned on him. They now know that he's the problem, not Hillsborough County, not St. Petersburg, not the market. They all know this now. This is stuff I've been talking about for 8 years, and now everybody knows it. So hopefully at some point, Stu says, all right, I'm out of options. I will maximize my profit here, sell the team. And maybe there's something Major League Baseball can do to juice it up and, give him an expansion team somewhere else. That's kind of what they did with the Expos and the Nationals and everything else. They can say, okay, just sell the team in Tampa to these guys. Let them get their done. Then we can get our expansion. We'll give you the inside track to do the expansion and be the new owner in Raleigh or wherever, as long as they can get their expansion money. So there's a lot of different ways to slice it up. And I don't pretend to know the inner workings of that part of it.
Right.
But all I know is we got a group. They got deep pockets. They have stadium options. They want to build an entertainment center. They want to build more than just a baseball stadium. If the county is invested, Ken Hagan says there's enough money to do the Rays and the Bucks and the Lightning. If these ownership groups all chip in, people say, oh, they don't have money to do all that. Well, Hillsborough County's not funding all of it. The owners have a fiduciary responsibility and a civic responsibility to also invest. And the Glazers have done so. Jeffrey Vinnick has done so. And these new owners would have a plan to pay for 2/3 of the stadium with development rights, just paying outright their share of the stadium, maybe 1/3 from the owners, 1/3 to the developer, and 1/3 to the county, just roughly simplistically speaking. So it's not like they have to fund the entire stadium. And there's a lot of different options on where it can go and what kind of stadium it's going to be. So I think there's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot there. It's very complicated, but it's also a great opportunity. As complicated as it can be, and it's big money stuff. You have the 10th largest media market in Tampa. You have the 15th largest media market in Orlando, 75 miles away, right? A bright line train coming in. These two markets are going to be connected if they're not already so within the next 10 to 15 years, which as for the life of a new stadium, you look out 30, 40 years. So obviously moving it closer to Orlando, closer to this market, bright line, making it accessible to the Orlando market changes things. It's a major demographic change. And you look at the I-4 corridor, you suddenly go from 3.5 million people in Tampa Bay to 7 to 8 million people in the entire I-4 corridor, which is where a baseball team would draw from, a regional draw, right? So everything makes, so if you're a business person, you say, where do I want to develop? And I can have a baseball team as kind of a, an anchor for my new condos, retail, entertainment district that helps pay for the stadium. It's like, wow, this is a great opportunity. Tampa Bay is one of the biggest growing markets. Orlando is here. It's Florida. It's a very business-friendly state, development-friendly state. The governor has gotten involved. He's very much aware of the plans and knows these people very well and will back them. So there'll be state support as well. So everything lines up. It's a great opportunity. As dubious as it all sounds, oh, we don't have the money. Where are we going to put all this stuff? If you're a businessman and you want to build a development, where's a better opportunity than here? There's not.
I was going to say, I can't think of a better market or city or location in the country that has the opportunity of growth.
Not Raleigh, not Nashville, not Portland, not any of San Antonio, not any of these places has what Tampa Bay has. And that's why Rob Manfred has said, you're not going anywhere. We're not leaving this market. Like, we're not leaving. Yeah. They're in the middle of trying to find new television partners for national TV partners. You want to leave the 10th and 15th largest market and then go, why would you do that? That's dumb. That's not good business. So yeah, it's a natural fit. It's a great opportunity. You just got to have people that have deep pockets, deeper than Stu, have great relations with the local politicians and can come together as a community and get the job done, which clearly Stu cannot. And so to me, follow the money, follow the opportunity. It all adds up to this, the team getting sold and a stadium being built on the Tampa side.
There's a lot of chit chat as per usual from social media and all that stuff. A lot of talk I've seen about, oh, well, what if the Rays just simply move to Orlando? Do you see that ever being some sort of possibility where the Rays leave the Tampa bar and go to Orlando?
Well, I see it as remote. Anything can happen, right? But I listen to what Rob Manfred says. We're not leaving the Tampa Bay market. I look at the money side of this, the opportunity side. Like, why would you go to Orlando? First of all, who's going to be the owner in Orlando? Is there going to be a relocation fee? Where are they going to build a stadium? Who's paying for the stadium? So as far as I've seen in Orlando, they have none of that. There's there's dreamers talking. There's Barry Larkin talking. I haven't heard Buddy Dwyer, the mayor, say, hey, we're all in for a bill on a new baseball stadium. They're putting $400 million into Camping World Stadium. That's where their tourist dollars are already spent and going to. Do they have more? I guess they could probably find more. But right now, I don't see anybody in the civic side of Orlando stepping up and saying, yeah, this is where we're going to. I've seen the renderings. I've seen the dreamers talk about it. But who's the ownership group? Where's the deep pockets? Where's who's paying for the new $1 billion stadium? Like, I don't know. I know on Tampa side, I know where that all lines up. I don't know where. There's a lot of question marks in Orlando. And again, you don't look at Orlando with Tampa. You look at the two regions. So you can say, well, then put it in Orlando and the Tampa people will come. Yeah, that could be true. But why would you not take advantage of the 30 years of market that you've already built in Tampa? Right. You don't know if people are going to show up in Orlando. To me, I've lived for the last year and a half, part-time in Orlando. It's a theme park economy. There's not a whole lot of, they don't support their soccer team to any great level. And the Magic have gotten pretty good support, but for a long time got none. And we're a very moribund franchise. Where's the guarantee that people are going to show up in Orlando? It's a very there's 70 million visitors a year. These people are not coming. Most of these people never even heard of baseball. They're coming from all parts over the world to go to the Mouse and Universal. They're for theme parks. oh, we'll just go to a baseball game too. Will they? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe, but I wouldn't. That's why you're going to count on that for attendance. It seems like there's a lot of question marks that don't exist on the Tampa side. So could it happen? Sure. I'll listen to Rob Manfred, follow the money, and say it's a lot better opportunity in Tampa.
It's crazy that you and I can see it so clearly, but
well, I think, obviously there's people in Orlando, they're excited about it and, want to get it done. Right. And the people on social media, people take shots at me all the time. It's okay. It's fine. These are the same people that said, oh, we're getting a deal done in St. Pete. And I said, no, you're not. That thing's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Oh, the deal's done. It's signed. It's going to happen. I'm like, okay, we'll see. Let's see. Let's wait and see if the shovels actually go in the ground. And they didn't.
Well, just real quick, though, talking about it, that whole St. Pete deal that fell through, do you think the hurricane – well, obviously the hurricane had a big factor in that, but if there was no hurricane that came and went through the Trop, do you think Stu still would have backed out anyways?
I do. I've said from the very beginning I didn't think he was ever going to build a stadium because they set that deal up with separate financial contracts for the stadium and the real estate deal. And one was not necessarily contingent on the other, which was weird in the original drawing of the documents. I think the mayor tried to shore that up later on when people brought it to his attention. Like, hey, by the way, if you don't, and this is, and what was interesting is when the bonds were up for vote, it became clear that if the Pinellas County or the St. Pete Council did not pass the bonds, did not fulfill their part of the contract, then Stu could have gone forward with the real estate deal with Hines and made, he was buying that land for $50 million up front, another $50 million in 10 years. So essentially $50 million, and it could be worth from $700 to $1 billion. So my feeling was he was just trying to get the land and then it would sell the team and not build the stadium. So he could get, a $700 million profit here and then another $1.5 billion for the team and walk away with a huge windfall. I think that was his plan all along because the way the deal was structured. And then when it came, sure, the hurricane, it gave him an excuse, really, to quote back out of the. So, because they said the numbers didn't work anymore because of the hurricane.
Yeah.
Why? Why did the numbers not work? Costs went up. A 22 or whatever the delay was in Pinellas County, which wasn't even a contractual delay. They didn't have to pass the bonds until March 31st. So that was an invented delay that the Rays claimed. And then, the Times jumped on it and gave it credibility, but it never was. Like, fact is, they didn't have to get that done until March 31st. They were just trying to get the bonds done early so the Rays could get construction going. But it was weird is that, so the Rays came out with this toxic letter and they were almost goading Pinellas County into not doing the bonds. Like, we're going to piss you off so much that you won't vote for them. And then we can grab the real estate. Did the same to the city. But then Manfred came in and he met with the county and the city before the votes. And what did he say? What did he say to him? I wasn't in the meeting. I don't know. But I've talked to some people that were in the meeting. And it's my feeling, in my opinion, that he said, look, we don't want you to lose your real estate, okay, to Stu Sternberg. He doesn't have the money or is not going to go through with building the stadium. So pass the bonds, take care of your part of the deal. I will assure you as the commissioner that Tampa Bay, he didn't say St. Pete. You go back and look at all the quotes. He said Tampa Bay. Even Mayor Welch said, the team's not leaving Tampa Bay. Chris Lotfield of Pinellas County Commission, the team's not leaving Tampa Bay, right? So to me, that was okay. So he said, pass the bonds. We're not leaving Tampa Bay. There's groups that want to buy the team, build on the Tampa side. I'm sorry that this deal is not going to get done in St. Pete, but you dodged the bullet. You can now redevelop this the right way without a baseball stadium, much better for the city. Much more cost efficient, much more return on investment, way better for the city. They don't need baseball. And you can move on, and your constituents will still have a baseball. You're not going to be, Mayor Welch, you're not going to be the mayor that lost the Rays to another market. Pinellas County, you're not going to be the county commission that lost the Rays to Nashville. They're not leaving. So pass the bonds, take care of your real estate. So Stu won't be able to get the real estate, and we'll all move on together. That's what I think happened. That's what I think the discussion was, because that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And now Ken Welch says we're prepared to move on without the Rays. And he should be. He should be, because that will, his campaign promises of doing right by the Black community and the gas works, gas plant district will now be much more favorable for the Black community. They'll get a lot more money, get a lot more access to that area when you're not building a stadium and all the other silly shenanigans they were going to do as part of the political deal. So it's all, again, everybody dodged a bullet. And I think that's what happened. That's just my opinion.
Really appreciate all your insight today and just having this one-on-one with me. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, Brett, appreciate it, man.
Hoping this can gain some traction and be informative for a lot of Rays fans around.
Well, you're a great Rays fan, even though I see you're a Chiefs fan. You're a great Rays fan. You're a great Rays fan, and anytime you need me, be happy to do it. Let's as Rays fans, I think it's all, and this is all I've ever been invested in. I get called a lot of different things about whatever, but all I've ever been invested in, I love St. Pete. I've lived there. I've worked there. I love St. Pete. It's fantastic. And I've lived in Hillsborough County. From a regional standpoint, I want what's best for Rays fans to have the stadium much more accessible and have a real stadium, as much as you love the Trop, a real state-of-the-art stadium in the right place, and watch and see how this team is supported, because I think it'll be tremendous.